Recording in progress.
Good evening. It is Tuesday, September the 13th, 2022. I'd like to call to order the work session of the Oregon City Commission. We have the roll call, first of all.
Commissioner Adam Marl. Here. Commissioner Rocky Smith. Here. And Commission President Denise McGriff.
Present.
And
before we get to future agenda items, I would like to call on our Community Development Director, Aquila Hurd-Ravage, for a brief bit of good news and introduction.
Yes, thank you. So I'd like to introduce our two new assistant planners, and you guys want to come forward. It is good news because that means that we have basically a full planning staff. So we've got Jude Tudeus, and he started July 18th, I think. So it's been about, 2 months, almost 2 months. It's going, time flies, yeah. And then Molly Gorin, and she started about a week later, so they're about 2 months in. So Jude was born and raised in Oregon, and after having a 15-year accounting career, he made a change and went back and got his master's degree from Portland State, and now he's a planner working with us. And he lives in Southwest Portland with his partner and 2 dogs. We talk about dogs a lot, actually, at our staff meetings. And Jude enjoys hiking, studying history and geography, and spending time at the Oregon coast. And he's particularly excited to be working for Oregon City because of its unique place in history and the beautiful surroundings and fascinating features. And Molly joins us from Salt Lake City. So she graduated from the University of Utah with her master's in urban planning and worked for an organization that did planning for unincorporated parts of Salt Lake County. And so I think she had multiple planning commissions that she supported in her career there. And she previously worked in healthcare administration. So she looks forward to exploring her new community, and because she moved here right before she started working here. And she also has a dog, a corgi named Fred, so.
Okay, well, I think on the next hires, we have to have some cat people and some ferret people so that there's an equal balance. It's not just all about the dogs. So.
Duly noted.
You don't have a dog, right?
No.
Yeah, and I don't. Do you have a dog?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Well, there we go. We have a little more balance here. All right. Anything you guys like to say?
Just that we're happy to be, or I'm happy to be here, and yeah, I look forward to working with you all in the future.
Yeah, Molly did a good job of speaking for me there too. Yeah, I'm happy to be working here as well. Oregon City is a great place, and I look forward to serving the community here.
Well, we look forward to seeing you out and about in the community because that's the best way for you to get to know us. If you'd like, I can call the newspaper and you can have the same greeting to Oregon City that I did. My picture was on the front page of the Oregon City Enterprise Courier. And so everyone in town knew who I was, and I had no idea who they were. And this went on for about 6 to 8 months of strangers walking up to me, which tells me a lot about Oregon City, welcoming me here. And I'm thinking, how do these people know? Anyway, that's how they know. So we'll talk to Raymond. We'll get your pictures on the front page of the paper too. So anyway, thank you. Mr. Morrow, did you want to say anything?
Well, just welcome. And I know that, we've been having a hard time with staffing as many other organizations have been. And so it's great to have a fully staffed community development department. And we have a great director. And so I'm just really excited to see the work you do. And I will say that Utah is one of my favorite places in the world. I love Utah, so.
All right.
And I'll just welcome you as well. Thank you for being here, and glad you're part of this this team.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Aquila. All right. We are going to talk briefly about the future agenda items list that we have been thoroughly working our way down. And if any of you have anything you'd like to move around, we should let Mr. Conkle know about that.
I think, as you may recall, at our last meeting, we had a discussion about moving our regular October 19th meeting to Monday, October 17th, just because we're expecting 2 land use appeals that will be coming in at approximately the same time. So
At that meeting?
We're trying to see where these schedules fall out. We're anticipating them at this point and assuming that we're going to get them. So this October 11th work session may or may not actually be a work session. So we're going to try and insert these next two items when we have time based on what the calendaring looks like in order to meet our 120-day commitments associated with these appeals should they come in.
Have we all responded to the calendar notice about that date? I know I got it today and I did respond.
That works for me, yeah.
And that works for you? You know, we could, since we won't be meeting on that Wednesday, we could come over to the school and help you with your parent-teacher meetings.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Get them done really fast. That might be something, we could take that off your plate. I'm happy to do it. Been there, done that, so. All right, so do we need to go through the list at all, or are we good? You've got on here have we actually seen, have you actually laid eyes on the ODOT diversion traffic report? or is that wishful thinking?
So it is on the work session agenda. We do intend to bring it. We have not seen it yet, so
Okay.
I think we were premature in scheduling it, although it was scheduled based on feedback we got from ODOT. So I'm just saying, we don't want to bring it until we've got a chance to see it and study
I
it.
agree.
I wish ODOT felt like that.
Yeah, I think you were just trying to be clairvoyant and saying that if you think about it enough, it'll happen, it'll be here. So I appreciate that forward thinking that you've got going on there, because I thought, oh my God, maybe they actually have it, but no. Street design standards, and then we have to get back to the city events. I believe I received some sort of a meeting request from Economic Development about that. I know I responded,
Yeah.
so.
I think that's
Next week.
something else.
Yep.
I think it's maybe tomorrow.
Yeah, I may not have jumped it onto my calendar yet, but yes, if it is tomorrow, tell me before the end of the meeting so I know where I'm supposed to be,
Oh, no.
because sometimes I don't know. Okay, anything else of note other than just the upcoming ones? Things are still on the list. We're not adding things on the list, but maybe the moving up the railroad quiet zone funding, maybe moving that up, since we're going to be talking a little bit about how to fund that. And I think, just as a suggestion, under the parking rate issue, it would be great if we could also add to that conversation. I've been talking to various and sundry people and about possibly creating an area where we have a portion of our lot would be for employee parking only. That still is a need. Although it is interesting to note that some parking spaces have but they have been released because some of the lawyers have given up their spaces that they have never used or are sitting there. So I've heard good things from some employees that they actually have a place to park. Not all, but some. So that was good news.
I do have a question. Wasn't there a conversation about an assistant city manager / city arborist conversation here in the future?
Yes, yeah, we do need to have that conversation as well. I think it's just a matter of when
Yeah.
Yep.
to
Yeah, I was-
slide that in.
Okay, yeah, I was just double checking because I didn't see
The other
it.
thing we probably need to have a discussion about, and you and I have talked about this, is that possibly after the deadline passes on September the 19th, we need to talk about succession planning, so to speak, with particularly former position number 2, which was mine. So that's something I would like to have a discussion with my fellow commissioners about how we want to go about dealing with that.
I think what I was thinking was that once we get the certification from the county, we will then put it on the next available commission meeting for acceptance of the results.
part, yeah.
And then we would have the swearing in, and then I would probably propose that we have, at that point, a discussion about how do we move forward with filling the vacant commission seat but we're still waiting for those results to be sent over from the county.
Yes, and Mr. Wiley and I both have made discrete inquiries as to when that might be. We were told that it might be this week, but then I got the comma, well, you know, we have till September the 19th.
Yes, which is 2 days before our meeting. So.
Yes, and that's what I made mention to the deputy clerk who was assisting me, and she said something to the effect it had to do with some ballot signature challenges. I said, okay, please let us know sooner than later.
All right.
All right, so we have a variety of very interesting, particularly number one is of interest to me. And when we get to this item, Mr. Conkle, I have to apologize. I have reached out to our Economic Development Department with a suggestion, and with everything else going on today, it didn't slip my mind, but it just didn't come to the top of the pop. So would you like to begin with item number one, which is spending plan for the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, or as other people know it as ARPA funding? Oh, wait a minute. Excuse me. Before we get there, let me back up. I understand there's a couple of people here tonight that might want to chat with us about something. So do you still want to do that, gentlemen? The other gentleman? If you want to, this would be the appropriate time for you to come up and say something. I don't know exactly what Mr. Guile wants to talk about. I only was aware that he might be here and would want to address us about something.
First, I'll just say Tom Guile, Oregon City. Mayor, I'm not quite sure if this is the right forum to discuss what happened last night, and I'm not sure if I should delay that until next week at the commission meeting, because it's been all over Facebook, all over the city today about the debacle last night, and so much discussion on it. I'd be glad to address it right now, but I'm not sure if it should be reserved until the city commission. Your thoughts, I would appreciate it. I know it's typically not what you have here at the work session, but last night was so intense and so astounding that it needs to be addressed as soon as possible. So would you rather I wait till the commission meeting or talk about it right now?
Would you be okay if we wait till the regular commission meeting? Because we're not going to be able to make any decisions about it, but thank you for.
I don't expect any decision on it, but I think you should,
Well, no,
if you're not already aware.
would be more appropriate.
Yeah, discussion on it, because it's all over the city right now. It's embarrassing for the appearance of what happened here last night.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for your time. All right, ARPA. Kind of reminds me of a conga song. I will not reiterate that here at the dais, so.
Thank you. So we'll go ahead and get started with the ARPA funding. So we are bringing this back. So I'm going to have Matt kind of go through the staff report. But we had brought this several months ago with just some preliminary ideas of what we could potentially spend some of the ARPA funding on. As you may recall, when this began, there were 4 buckets that we had to put money into. We had identified a significant portion to go to water rehabilitation projects. As that ARPA refining of the rules and regulations for implementation worked themselves out, a couple of things happened. Was that the amount of money that we received increased slightly, that we had availability to utilize, as well as some of the restrictions on how those funds were used were loosened. So once again, the last time we brought this, I think there was some concerns about how the list got created, how the estimates were created. So we've gone back and refined those, had some discussions, looked at trying to get some cost estimating in just to get a better idea of what these costs are. And so this list isn't final. This was really just put together based on what we heard, comments we've heard from the commission in the past, projects that we've talked about but never been able to fund, as well as just some of the things that we've seen. And these things have changed a little bit over time as new priorities have come up or some funding or investments have been made. So if there aren't any questions to begin with, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Matt and he can work through the staff report.
Any questions?
No, well, because we still have quite a bit of time to refine this and finalize it, right?
Yeah, there's no pressure, and Matt can talk a little bit about the dates. Yeah, this is, if we want to continue to kind of work this over, we certainly can. We're not asking for, there's no immediacy to this.
Well, I was hoping that there would be a couple things on the list, or at least 3 to 5 things on the list that I think that we could move forward. One of my thoughts is about the quiet zone. I would like to see us sort of get a jump on that. I know how important it is to the economic vitality of our town, our residents who don't like trains as much as maybe I do. And it'd be great if it was a little quieter. We're still going to have the trains. I don't think they're ever going to go away, but I think that is one of them that I thought maybe could move. If there's a way we can, at your suggestion, if there's a way we can take some of the things and put them in like bucket number 1 for moving those forward, and then maybe having some others that we still want to talk about a little further, or we want to say, no, that's a second priority. Because I mean, these are all these things on here are things we talked about. They're all kind of great projects. And I think that what you attempted to do the first go around was to identify needs in the community, which without these funds, we wouldn't be able to totally achieve them. And I think that that's a really good use of the funds. I know that the administration is, they want to see stuff happen, and so they can point to it and say, hey, look at this, and this is great. But it will really help our community too, I think, if some of these could move forward a little sooner than others. So I think you've done a great job on sort of outlining it. And I'll go ahead and let Matt continue, and then I can add in the thing that I want to talk about has to do with downtown. So, Mr. Zook, please.
Sure. Thank you, commissioners. And we, in the staff report on page 2 is the list. And if you're in the viewing audience, it's part of the packet. We did provide the history of our discussion from January, and that's in the first 3 set of columns. And one of the approaches that we took back in January was we gave a longer than a long bucket list of items, more than what we had. When Tony and I spoke in preparation for this meeting, we added the far right column, which is basically the September 13th staff proposal. And rather than leaving a longer list, we just cut it off with the full amount. And so that meant that some of the things that we originally had dollars allocated towards have changed. The need is not there for some of the things that we proposed. And at the same time, we have had new opportunities come up. And we also reflected the feedback that we received from that January meeting in the form of, there was a few items that were added, like the elevator security enhancements, and then as well, to address the item that you just mentioned, the quiet zone is, the city match for the quiet zone project of $600,000 is in our proposal. We've looked at other funding opportunities and found that this is probably the best and quickest way to come up with the matching funds for that project. So, so there's a trail here. We've left the previous conversation there so people can see what we thought about back in January, but then also where we're at today with on the September 13th. Most of the items haven't changed. Really, the majority, about 7.6 million, was originally budgeted and remains allocated. Really, we're talking about $2 million of unprogrammed money that was not in the adopted budget. So the water infrastructure, as Tony mentioned, 5.6 million. We had broadband, tourism, transportation. Those were all programmed, and some of that money has been used already. And then really, it's from the 6th line down is where the discretionary conversation can begin. So I guess
you said from the 6th line down?
Yeah, basically we're from the downtown bathroom, which was, that's the beginning of the now $2 million discussion that we have. So really from downtown Bathroom all the way down to the city match for the federal dollars of the quiet zone is the, roughly 2.1 million. So there are some new items. We can go through this, line by line if you'd like, or you've got it here, and if you want to add to this list and move things around, that we can have that proceed in that way as well. I did want to address the timing question that Commissioner Smith brought up. Basically, we need to be in a contract for the spending of these dollars by the end of 2024. And so, and then to have the money spent by the end of 2026. So that does give us, ample time, I think.
But we could bump some things up.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm actually pretty happy with this list. I
don't know if we have.
the only thing that really I would think about is I think that the elevator security enhancements are just some of the security issues that we have it's in city parks, et cetera. And so, if I'd be open to talking about that a little bit more, whether or not this is the right place for that or not. But clearly we've had more vandalism. It's always been a problem, and it just seems like even though in the last couple of years we've had some other issues with that, if there's some other sites that we might want to think about doing some improvements on security-wise, but that's really the only thing. I think most of the other things on this list are something that I support and are all needed, so I don't have a whole lot of changes to the list.
If I could just clarify two things real quick. On the elevator security enhancements, that was really looking to replace the gate on the top up by McLaughlin Promenade into more of something you'd see kind of coming down, almost like in a mall type setting when they cover the opening to a business from the main area. And that we're pretty
that one up.
We're pretty solid on that number.
Yeah.
And then there was a little extra included in there for some additional upgrades. And then
Does that include, I wanted that on the list, and we need cameras there, not the cheesy cameras we have, but something that'll actually identify people.
yeah, so I know IT has been working with Public Works to upgrade the cameras that are there. That's actually in process.
Oh, good.
And then the one item that we did so a couple of the changes that you see is the citywide essential employee pay. That was potentially while we were negotiating with the unions at what that could be. We've finalized our contract with police, so that's why that number has been reduced. We're still negotiating with AFSCME for any potential ARPA funding that may be used. So that could be a placeholder. I don't think it's going to go up, but it could go down or away. And then we left on here, hold for unanticipated future opportunity. It's about 118,000, a little bit over. Why I put that is, I'd like to potentially propose that we hold that a little bit longer as unallocated. You may recall, we've got a pretty large region-wide radio program that's been in place with new radios, new towers and whatnot. And it looks like there are some overruns in that, which may be allocated back to the partner cities, or it may not be, or it may be a portion. So we'd like to hold that until we get a little more clarity on what that liability potentially could be.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. It's basically you're talking about using it as a contingency because we know what we don't know.
Yes, yeah.
Adam, do you have anything you see on the list?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. You got to my question about the union negotiations. The broadband feasibility study, that's currently happening right now?
I thought.
Correct,
right
yes.
away, yeah.
Yep, we are, I think I just saw come out an initial preliminary report is almost finalized. I think that staff's internally going to be looking at. So yes, that work's been going on for quite a while now.
So this would just be a reimbursement to our regular budget then?
This has already been allocated in our current biennial budget. We knew when we did that budget, we knew we were going to get some money, and we knew that one of the buckets where money could be used was broadband. So we had actually put that in our budget and it was already adopted as the 200,000. So think about, on the sheet, the 5.6 million for water infrastructure, the 200 grand for broadband, the 100,000 for tourism, and the 300 for transportation were already adopted in our budget and allocated. So that, I kind of think of that as already dedicated funds. So really, it's everything below there that was this money that we have that hasn't been identified to a program or a project. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Sort of.
Really? We already knew we had that money and we already spent it. We already allocated it.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I thought this was maybe suggested to be additional monies, but it's not money. It's money we already talked about.
This has already been, those first four lines were right out of the budget that we approved. Our current biennial budget that we're in right now.
So we're not actually increasing the amount of money that we're spending on that?
No.
Okay.
It's always been $200,000 for broadband infrastructure study.
Okay.
Do you see column 1 there where it says original budget?
Yes.
That reflects what was adopted
Okay.
by the Budget Committee and the Commission back in June of 2021.
Okay. I thought that we were going like above and beyond with.
Well, you could. I mean, the discretionary amount of look at that second column where it says final award. $2,093,549 is what we originally put into the general fund contingency as a future placeholder for discussion. And so, if you decide you want to move more to broadband, it would have to come out of that $2,093,000. But what's up there on line 2 is what was put into the budget, which has gone to fund the work that Tony just described.
Okay. The other one, so can you just give an update as to the reasonings, like where we are with the boat ramp and the Cayuse 5? I'm assuming with the boat ramp, because we just went through our master plan project, that's something that would be pushed down.
I think when you think about the implementation of that, I think there's a couple things. One, it's going to be a little while. It's going to be a while before we get to construction. I think two is that I believe the state matches 75% of that boat ramp cost. So I think it's just something I think it's a funding that we identify later where I think we're a little bit more closer to a real project there rather than tying up. And it's kind of, we're guessing $1 million for a boat ramp. I have no engineering, I have no design or cost estimate. It was really an estimate based on what we've seen historically.
Mm-hmm. And then the Cayuse 5?
The Cayuse 5, I think on that one, I think we made some good progress in working with the Umatilla and the Confederate Tribes of the Grand Ronde. And our understanding was that the Umatilla were actually awarded some additional funds through some other funding opportunities that they have and some grants. So I think some of the pressure and concern that we had when we were the only funder have lessened. So I don't think if there is a gap, I think it's going to be much, much smaller than what we were worrying about when we put this together a couple months ago. And that, I think that if there is a gap, we can probably work with our partners and internally to come up with covering that, because I think it's going to be much smaller than I think what I was thinking at the beginning of this year when we were the only funder.
Okay. And then I do have a question for Director Williams. And as he's coming up, this is partially related to our actual adopted budget, but it made me think of it while we were going through this. Are we still going to be updating the city website?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so when is that going to happen?
You got me on that one.
David working on that?
I'm trying to remember because we've done. I think that we're in the process of writing the RFP for the work through our IT department to take that project on, of completing that over the next roughly, a year or so.
Okay.
Yep. It was in the, it's one of the subcategories in our goals that we would update.
It is, yep.
The IT,
Yep.
security, because it's getting crazy. as we go along.
Well, not just security, but usability.
Yes, usability, yeah.
Yeah, because before Kristen left, she was able to identify a public engagement platform that we could utilize. And then she was helping with the RFP process for the new website. Once she left, that then fell to IT. So it's taking a little bit longer getting that RFP out related to the update of the website.
Okay. And then, yeah, could you just go over what the 75,000 kind of went toward with the post-COVID reconfiguration? I've seen it and I've had conversations about it, but I'm just curious what the 75 went toward.
Sure,
or
so
will be.
the 75, so thank you very much. The 75,000 that's identified in this proposal has not been expended yet.
Okay.
So during COVID, the library, we did our very best to, based on the guidance that we were receiving and ensuring that we were able to provide continuity of services no matter what was happening. We expended a lot of funds already on doing some facility reconfiguration. So this included things like our new computer carrels in the Carnegie area of the library, because we had to move where our old computer lab was because we had 3 people facing each other, which we know in a post-COVID world is not what we want to do. During that period, we also suspended fines, so we lost about $40,000 of budgeted revenue. So when you take that all together, and we expended that because we knew we needed to do this to keep the library open. So as we looked at what's kind of remaining left to be done to kind of get us where we think we need to be in a post-COVID world, that's what that $75,000 is for. And a good chunk of it is where we have relocated the central service, the circulation desk to. If you come into the lobby, the circulation desk used to be up towards the side. During COVID, we discovered that having a central desk in kind of that circular configuration met a lot of unmet needs that we had, both in patron safety and able for us to be a little more efficient with our operations. That's primarily the largest cost that's included in that $75,000 is, kind of doing some reconfiguration of that space, getting a new desk in there so that we can kind of finish our grand reconfiguration post-COVID.
Awesome. That all makes sense to me. Thank you. Yeah, and that's all I have.
I wanted to recommend that we carve out about $60,000, and the reason I'm recommending that is that as the staff is aware, we have identified the Clackamas County Courthouse as a possible opportunity. Now, I know there are a lot of negatives about it, but I'm trying to be positive and look at it as an opportunity. I feel very strongly that we need to continue discussions with the board chair and Mr. Schmidt and the other commissioners about us getting some control of that. It's one of the things I don't want to see happen to it is that we end up with a situation where it gets moved off to a private party and it sits there, similar to what is going on right now with the Olympic Mill, the Tumwater site up in Washington. It's been sitting there. So if we have a chance to control it, we can work towards it. And so there is a Oregon Main Street grant that is about $200,000 that we could apply for and do a very mini feasibility study. And we would need about $60,000. I would like to suggest we allocate about $60,000 out of this to help with that. As you know, some of the things that we need to know about the county are going to be a little difficult because it's still operating and there are security issues. So there are confidential aspects of it that we can't disclose that. And those that do know it, I know several staff and other people from the Downtown Association have been on a tour of it. And my own experience with the Multnomah County Courthouse was that you get escorted through there with about 4 or 5 different sheriff's people. And but there are things that I know the county would be willing to have a discussion with us about helping us secure that. And I think it's an opportunity that would reap a lot of benefits to give us just some idea, because I think it's probably better to have some information, confirm the information that we already know, and try to move forward. And I know the county, I've heard through the grapevine that there's some wheeling and dealing that they might want to do, but I'm not at liberty to say what the wheeling and dealing is because I'm kind of scared to find out what that is. And nothing against the county, but they're looking for opportunities as well. So that would be a proposal. Again, as I said, the city match for the federal dollars on the quiet zone, I think knowing how long it takes to get the attention of Union Pacific. I would like to see us move that up the chain so we can get going, because I know the one that I worked on in Portland took a long time. The elevator security enhancements, and then, of course, the downtown parking kiosk, I think, is something else that needs to be moved up. I have my favorite kiosk that I go to, but now that I have the app, I can just put in any number and I'm parking, even though I may not be near that one. And I will say, for those of you that have thought about trying it, it does work. I would recommend you use it. It's, you can load as much money on it as you want, and then you don't have to worry about putting your card in there. You just put kiosk number 1010 or 1009 or whatever it is, and you're good to go. I think it was a good move on our part to do that. And if you're somebody who goes downtown on a regular basis, or even if it's irregular, you still have that in your back pocket and you can just use it. But I know there's still a lot of frustration with the existing kiosks because they don't take the thinner cards and they've changed them all. There's new platinum and whatever on them. So that's something I would like to see get moved up, just for the sanity of our staff, who doesn't have to stand there all the time and explain to everybody about, you make the thing work by putting in your card and your business card. There's some little tricks there. So those are a couple of things that I see on there. I think a harder pull will be, even though we have money allocated, is, what would this downtown bathroom be? I know that we've talked a little bit about the loos that City of Portland has used, and apparently you can hose those things down. I've seen that happen. I think the community meeting space, thank you for keeping that on there. That also goes along with some of the things that the library is trying to do. We keep hearing about this, but I've explained to the community members that I've spoken with about this particular issue is that we have to not only think about meeting space, but we have to think about security, exiting, those sorts of things. It's not just a matter of turning over a key to somebody and saying, okay, you can use this room. It's way more than that. And I think the neighborhood associations have not really fully understood the scope of that and what is going to be involved in that. And I know when we were planning the library with our former library director, where the bathrooms were placed and where that meeting room is had a lot to do with how we could lock that off. So I'm hoping we get that fixed and that room can be utilized. So that's just a couple of things that I saw in here. Everything else looks fine.
For the community meeting space, we were looking at 2 locations.
Yes, one was the library. And
Actually, one was Community Development Department.
Oh, okay.
And then City Hall.
Okay.
So if we can improve security, access limitation, card access, while still providing access to the bathrooms for those meetings. So in that 100,000 is an estimate for 2 facilities. So I guess the question would be if there is consensus for holding off another 60,000 for a potential Main Street grant, do we maybe do 1 facility, and take it out of that 100 and get close to that?
We've got the library, which is, everybody loves meeting. Greg, thank you. Everybody loves meeting at the library when we can, and I know that they're moving that forward. I think it's an opportunity. I think it'll help us. Might actually give us some leverage with the county. So we'd have to get their approval, and so far when I've talked to Chair Smith, that she's seemingly okay with that. I'm not going to pin her down at this point, but I hope to have future discussions with her about working together on that. She's committed to work together, so that's the good point. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Rocky? Okay.
I'm supportive of the discussion about the courthouse, yes.
So I think what I'm hearing is that there's general support for the projects. So the projects that we've proposed add up to the total amount of money that we have available. So we've got
including the contingency?
Well, no. So that's the way I see it is we either take it from the contingency, realizing we may have an additional liability down the road as it relates to the radios, and we'll deal with it. Or we, the one other option I saw was maybe we work on 1 facility rather than 2 for community space and take roughly half of that money to allocate.
I think that's reasonable. I don't want us to touch that contingency for the this radio situation, and as the way it's been explained to me, it's either going to be a small bite or it's going to bite our heads off.
Yep.
So. And we'll get there with the other facility. Like I said, when the library gets done, we'll have that as another option. So we would end up in the end having 3 in addition to the library with the other 2. But if we can get 1 now, that sounds reasonable to me. That'll help.
So the library is already embarking on security improvements?
You know, we're trying to figure out the library. I think what historically had happened was that staff would stay, so we'd pay overtime
Yeah, we don't want to keep.
for those night meetings. So, you know, we'd love it if it could be during regular hours of operation when staff are there. I think they're
Come on
just.
up, Greg, and tell us about the gate situation. It was working and then it wasn't.
You're going to get tired of listening to me tonight. Thank you again. Tony's correct. So there are some issues with the facility at the library. We do have safety and security concerns, especially given our experience with the way the library is used. The other concerns we have, as Tony mentioned, is staffing issues. Previously, especially for night meetings, that's kind of the most difficult one for us to accommodate. Given the fact that we have a service area, that's very large, and we've got all the city neighborhood associations, as well as I believe it's 4 to 6 county CPOs in our service area, providing night meeting access for all those groups. When I did the analysis, it would probably like 3 nights a week, every week, that we'd have to figure out how to provide access to the facility and have staffing for it. And that's not something that we're currently able to do. So we're looking at how we can best accommodate those needs. During operating hours, we have done some improvements upstairs in our meeting room, having some additional equipment that we make available for people to check out, making it easier to reserve time, and we're also looking at how we can do that for the downstairs community room.
Oh, that was not my understanding or impression. The reason that those gates were there past the bathroom was so that people could come in the side door with permission, and somebody would be responsible, and that we wouldn't have to have staff stay late because everything else would be locked down. And my understanding was that the gate wasn't working, the thing that comes down and blocks it all off. And then it was working and now it's not working. So what is the situation with that?
The gate is currently working. We didn't have any security cameras in there, so as part of the reconfiguration, we did put a security camera in there. I will say, again, right now, our main concern with using that location after hours, it's the staffing and it's the security concern. We do have to make some policy changes as well to make sure that our policy is consistent with how we're using the space, but that's the main concern right now.
I'm not understanding if it's all locked off and you can only exit and enter through that one side door.
So all of our policy says that all meetings that happen in that room have to be open to the public. So we don't reserve that space for a non-public meeting. So every meeting that takes place in there is open to the public. Given the experience that we've had over the past couple of years with making bathrooms available to the public and making our facilities available to the public, we have concerns about if we were to leave it unstaffed with an untrained community member, having to deal with a safety issue that might come up, whether that's I don't want to catastrophize, but whether that's a drug overdose or something like that. And that's really one of the main concerns that we have. I believe that the fire station just right across the street from us had the same experience, and they made the decision that they couldn't make their space available, after hours because of these same safety concerns. So we're trying to figure out the best way to go forward on that. We're continuing to work on it.
Well, it seems to me that, I'll just use the McLaughlin neighborhood as an example because we were the ones that were using it. Once the board was aware that there was that issue, we always had somebody at the back of the room who was monitoring what was going on with the bathroom. And I'm not saying that everybody's not as responsible as that group is, but I think there might be a way to have a key person who would be attending those meetings to get training so that those things can be alleviated. Obviously, we all have phones and we know who to call when there's a situation. I myself was the key contact person at the fire station. So I always sat in the back of the room We always had the door locked after we had our meeting. Anybody that needed to access it because of they were late, they had to call, and we would go down, let them in. Otherwise, it was off limits. And that was pre-COVID. But I mean, I'm glad I don't have that responsibility anymore, but it was something that we agreed to do to make the fire department more comfortable pre-COVID, make sure people weren't wandering around where they weren't supposed to be. That's why we kept the door locked. But yeah, so if there's, again, there's a way that we can continue to look at fixing that situation where we don't have to pay overtime, and we get some key people, obviously, the city neighborhood associations, and again, we understand that. I know that there's that situation, there's not the same situation with the lower level of the Pioneer Community Center. You can't go anywhere, and there's always a key person that's responsible for, making sure everybody's out, it's locked, all of that. So maybe that is a future model or a model that we can look at.
And we've definitely looked at that.
And I'm sure you have. I know you're very thorough.
At the Pioneer Center, they charge for that. That's a revenue.
Yes.
When they rent out that room, part of that revenue is to help pay for that staff member. None of our facility usage is on a revenue basis. It's all made freely available to the community. And so we have to.
Okay, well, it's something that we need to get that fixed, because, that was, when we were doing the planning, that was the whole idea. That room was going to be.
I understand, but the way my understanding is the way it worked out was there was always one staff member, and it was Director Cole, who would stay late, whenever it was needed to be done. And I want to make sure that we have a more sustainable way of doing that rather than relying on individual staff members to stay. So we will definitely continue to look into solutions.
Pay for that staff person. That might be something we need to bring up.
That is something we've talked about as part of a potential budgetary request going forward.
Okay.
I just, after hearing that, it does not sound like we would have at least two spaces. And as you and I both know, having been to CAC meetings, that's one of the top things that we're hearing is that they need to be able to have a space. So if we're taking out of, I don't want to take out of the contingency, but I also don't want to take out of the security upgrades for the two locations, because I think we've been going through just a lot of things since I've been on the commission where neighborhood associations have made it clear that they don't feel like they're valued or listened to. And so I want to make sure that we're providing every avenue possible for them to be able to have their meetings. And if it works where we can just have City Hall and we just need to be really diligent about scheduling and making sure everyone knows, then that's fine. But I just wanted to communicate that concern.
Most of the neighborhoods we're really lucky the way their schedule is, they don't have an overlap in terms of when they meet, so.
I do wonder if it would be good to start with one.
I think so, and see how it works.
And then, because we're going to be, we're starting up budget here in 3 months. And, that could be something that, gets allocated as one of the priority projects as part of the biennial budget to look at another facility while we try to deal with
we need a guinea pig.
How is this going to work? Two, like the staffing, the access to the volunteer training, the accountability. We do need to address all those things. Are we going to carve out neighborhood associations, get to use these for $5 for free? There are just some things that this is going to be different than how we've done this before. I'm sorry?
Maybe you make us vacuum the products or whatever.
I do think balancing access to city facilities with some of the safety, they are real.
Yeah.
And we don't want anybody getting put in a position that is going to potentially be very difficult.
Let's start with the one then, like you recommended, and let's move forward. Okay, so I think we figured out what we're doing. I'm just excited to get to the next topic because I know Mr. Lewis is raring to go on this. And there's no other topic I love discussing more than parklets other than parking meters. So.
Well, that's exciting to hear. Thank you, commissioners. Still commissioners.
We're still commissioners.
Still, okay, got that part right. So yeah, here we put on the work session agenda. The intention is to bring this back to you on the 21st of September. There's a draft resolution in you, although it's not listed draft, it is draft, but the real discussion is whether or not the city commission wants to continue to support parklets in the right of way. So that's one big change here is Aquila's going to give you the parklets on private property piece in the next
Thank you for separating that out.
But we're splitting them out. We've split them out. And for the most part, there's not been any changes made to the parklet program. If you remember, we developed a standard and I went through, I think we presented PowerPoint presentations on this topic, I don't know, 10 or 12 times. It seems like we've done a lot of those. So I didn't bring you one of those tonight, but anyway, so we really haven't changed the parklet program much. But if you remember back in 2000, March of 2000, Governor Brown kind of issued a Stay Home, Save Lives initiative that really kind of put a lot of folks from not being able to use restaurants indoors. So that was the whole idea about our parklet program. We scrambled, we put together the program, and really that was in response to regulations that was really aimed at helping us endure the COVID-19 situation. So we've done since the first resolution we did was Resolution 2022, and we've had parklets going now for about 2 years. The extension goes through November 30th, which would be about 30 months. And we brought various resolutions to you to extend that period of time, and there's been discussion every time about whether or not these are permanent or are they going to go away at the end of this term, which would be November 30th, 2022. And so really, we want to make sure we get that right when we bring it back to you. So this is an opportunity for you to share with me what your expectations are. Right now, we've got really 2 that are on 7th Street that are between Railroad Avenue and Main Street. Everything else has since gone away, and that's in the right of way. That's not on private property. So. I don't think we're advocating one way or another. We're just, recognizing that the deadline's coming, November 30th. We think it's reasonable to give the property owners that have those parklets, if we're not going to continue the program, enough opportunity to kind of prepare to remove those. If we're going to continue the program, then we would bring this resolution to you as drafted. And I guess the only other thing I would say is permit fees is another question that usually comes up. Right now, we've got a renewable right-of-way permit fee, which you have made decisions to reduce. So I think it's 50% reduction from what we had before. So we've got a special fee for renewable right-of-way permit, and that's at $88. And that is per year. So any new one would pay that $88. Any renewed one would pay that $88 each year. So other than that, I don't have much more for you. It seems pretty straightforward. It's what's the commission's pleasure with regard to parklets in the right of way.
Well, I didn't see anything in here that would make this expire, this resolution. There's no expiration date, correct?
Right.
Perfect.
Right.
That's what I would support. It is extremely unfortunate that the parklet that was at Nebbiolo has been dismantled. It met all of our requirements. It was attractive. It was being utilized, and that was between other parties that don't have anything to do with us. I recently had lunch at Ingrid's, and it's a small facility, and it was packed, and people were utilizing the parklet. I still think that those 2 are viable, that we should continue them. And I think, as Commissioner Smith said some time ago, that this is in support of downtown businesses. COVID may not be here in this iteration, but who knows what's going to happen to it. I don't think it should totally be tied to COVID anymore, but I think it's an economic development opportunity, and those 2 business owners have invested in that facility. And I think that given where they are and the fact that they're still viable and still attractive, I would be in support of allowing them, those two to continue. Now, if somebody else comes down the road and wants to build one, they have the opportunity to do that, but it would need to be within the strict confines of what we have as our criteria and design. I guess I'm in support of this, and I think we should move forward with allowing them to continue.
I actually think it's unfortunate that the ones that we lost are the ones that work the best.
I thought it was amazing.
And quite honestly, the reason I think that the ones we lost work the best was because when they go away and all those chairs go back onto the sidewalk, you cannot walk through there.
I agree. I agree.
It's something that anyone walking downtown, experienced before we allowed the parklets, and now that some of them are disappearing, it's become an issue again. And I'm not saying that the restaurants aren't doing a good job of trying to do their best to keep the sidewalks clear. It's the customers that don't really keep in mind that there's a sidewalk there and are moving the tables and chairs around, or are kind of standing there waiting for tables or whatever that blocks the complete sidewalk. I've seen that quite a bit. Having the ability to put the chairs and tables in the parking lane, in the parking spaces allows, not that piece, that's one help. But by putting the parklet in the parallel parking, you still have servers crossing the sidewalk to serve customers, and that is also problematic. So the one that was, down on, what would that be, 8th Street, worked perfectly. Because it created an atmosphere that added to the downtown. It actually added to the atmosphere because it caused the local businesses to have music on various nights that allowed people to sit out there. Servers could come in and out and serve the tables. People could walk around. It was perfect. And that's how it should work.
It was accessible to people in wheelchairs.
And so, the other scenarios have been problematic. So I'm balancing that with, what has been successful, what hasn't. And now that we're kind of down to the last two, it's like, well, do we keep going with it? I think that, I'm okay with it. Because I have the hope that it's going to be, it opens the opportunity for other businesses to do the right thing.
So Arch Bridge is self-service, so there's not any servers walking back and forth.
Right. So I'm still, I'm supportive of it. I just think, we could have done a better job. I guess I'll let Adam speak for a little bit on this. I want to hear his thoughts, but because we've always, we have the alternate, a lot of people saying, oh, well, they should go away, and I don't know that they should. I wish we would have done a better job of it. My only regret is that when we started it, that we didn't make them all consistent and fit the same design. Because if I could go back to it and say that the design would be exactly what was done on Main Street, where it was set up in the way that it was on 8th Street,
it was perfect.
Then that's the way it should have been done, and I wouldn't have cared if every business in downtown did it.
Go ahead, Mr. Morrow.
Thank you. So I support the idea of having parklets. I think they've definitely added to the vitality of our downtown corridor, and I think that just having some variety down there is helpful. So you were saying that the rate that we would be looking at, because I was trying to find it in the resolution and in the exhibit, but the annual rate we would be looking at is $80?
It's right here, it's
$88.
88, okay.
Yeah, on page 2 of the staff report.
Okay, it was in the staff report.
Yeah.
Okay, I was looking in the resolution.
Yeah. He
Okay.
refers to the fee list in the resolution.
The $88 is published in our fee schedule, so those change from year to year. So the resolution just references our fee schedule.
Yeah, that way we don't have to change the resolution when the fee changes. So
Okay.
it's a generic, correct?
Right, so the commission makes decisions on fee changes too, so that would be a different resolution adopting all of the fee schedules that we have, all the fees.
Okay, because I think that's definitely a conversation to have because, yeah, previously I had asked about the amount of parking revenues we were losing because of the parklets, and I did get an email from Liz Hannum back when we had that conversation back in April, and I just brought it up. It says, pre-COVID, we were averaging about $24K per month in metered parking revenue. This means each stall generated about $124 a month, so the city, according to 2019 numbers, is losing about $5,970 a year because of the parklets. I don't necessarily...
Was that with all three of them, though?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, because
I would have been with it.
we're only down to 2, and I think that...
Right. So I mean, I'm not necessarily wanting us to be able to recoup all of that, but that getting a rate that I think is reasonable to allow these business owners who have made a significant investment in these parklets to continue using those while also making sure that we're keeping our budgets whole and funded will be important to me. But the other thing that I have is a question about limits. So I'm looking at the policy, says the parklet program limits the number of allowed parklets per block as necessary to accommodate for ADA accessibility for pedestrians and protect accessible parking and no parking areas such as loading zones. ADA parking spaces may be relocated temporarily if ADA standards can continue to be met. I just think we need something that's a lot clearer about limits. I know that the likelihood of us having a whole street full of parklets is very, very low, but there does say something where if all of the businesses on those frontages agree, it seems like that could be a possibility. So I just want to make clear that we do have numerical limits on how many can be on each block.
I thought we did have that. I thought that was in there already. That was one of the things we approved. We said we didn't want to see 15 of them on one block, that I thought it was limited to 2 per block.
Yeah, I remember a limitation too, but I'm not, let me,
Yeah, I thought it was 2 per block, because we weren't looking at having them all over the place.
multiple parklets are allowed per business per frontage. If neighboring property owners and businesses approve, businesses may work together to create a parklet using 2 or more on-street parking stalls if the businesses are adjacent to each other. In addition, any business may allow customers of other nearby businesses to utilize the parklet.
You're reading it, but not into the mic, so.
Yeah, that was the part that I was reading.
That's number 1.
Yeah.
I know we were trying to limit, just sight distance and those kind of things within the, within our intersections and things like that. So there are some limitations there.
I don't recall a hard number limit per frontage, because I think you're going to see some variety depending on what's along that frontage.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's eligibility locations. It definitely includes our downtown, and I believe it includes
God, nobody's put
7th
on
Street.
7th Street, that would be a disaster.
But
I mean, in the end, it's up to a majority. I myself would like to see a numerical limit, just so that we can set some expectations for community members as to, because there are serious concerns about parking. But I want to be able to, for us to have a policy, a parklet policy that works and that maintains the community that they've added in the last few years, but while also recognizing the fact that we're continuing to struggle with parking in downtown, especially when it comes to employees who work there, not even factoring in the people that we want to be coming down to Oregon City as a visitor. So
We can amend the policy program and still pass the resolution.
yeah, and
So,
we can
Do you
take a
have a
harder
number
look.
in mind? I mean, I don't think we should have more than 2 per block face. I just think
yeah, I think that's reasonable.
it's kind
What
of
was
like
that number, 2?
2.
Yeah.
So for instance, 7th Street, we got 2. That's 7th between Railroad and Main. That's it.
So for the whole block, even though you have two sides, or is it two per side on the block? Is it per the block is it the corridor? Both sides of the street can only have two, or is it essentially you could have 4 on 7th between Main and Railroad?
That's what I would think.
And are we talking utilization of 2 parking spaces, or are you?
Correct.
Right, okay.
No more than,
2 parking spaces being utilized
Right, 'cause
per
it's-
block face.
right. Because it's those exist, I mean, we have to use the existing ones, that's the only example we have. So we've got 2 businesses that have joined together, they each use one of the spaces for that. So to me, that's reasonable.
But I wouldn't want them to be able to do it on the other side of it.
No, I wouldn't either.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear, to not be able to?
I don't,
We're talking block or block faces, just what
yes,
he's
but
asking.
what he was asking was if we're including both sides of the street.
Yes, and that would be the block faces. If
Okay.
we say no more than 2 per block faces, that means both sides of the
Frontage.
street.
Yeah, so for instance, on 7th Street, between Railroad Avenue and Main Street, I think what I'm hearing is that if they go on both sides, you'd have 4. You could have up to 4 parklets. If you only limited them to one side, then it'd be just the 2 that exist. And that's, I guess, if,
Now,
you know,
what I
that's
just
the,
said was, we would have only 2 per block face both sides of the street in that particular block.
So
I
for,
did understand you. I wasn't sure if Adam
Yeah,
would
for
read it
7th
better.
Street between Railroad and Main, you get 2 parklets.
yes, and that's what I think.
Yes, and it doesn't matter which side of the street
So
it's on.
for right now,
Okay,
what
so
we
that's-
have
okay,
there,
okay.
that is the limit.
That's different.
So you don't like
It's
that?
per block, not per
I think
block
we keep,
face.
I said per block.
I think I finally, yeah, I don't agree with that, but.
Okay, what would you think would be reasonable?
Well, I think, I don't know how you can, I mean, the concern is this. Why, if someone on one side of the street can do it, can the other, so now if we have a restaurant that opens across the street, they're out of luck because there's already 2 there.
First come, first served.
Yeah, I don't know about
Yeah.
that.
Okay, well, then you wanted to say no more than 2 per block face?
Well, it's the same as if someone opened on the same side, they wouldn't be able to.
Right.
It's just a matter of who gets there first.
Yeah, well, I think 2 per block is, should be on both sides of the
Okay,
street.
so you're saying 2 per block face, so that would be one side of the street could have 2 and the other side of the street could have 2?
Yes.
Okay, that's what you're saying. That's what we talked about to begin with.
I think that's too many.
I agree. I think
Okay, then vote on it, or let's.
we can't vote on it.
Yes, we can. It only takes 2 votes.
This is a work session.
I know,
So
but in the,
we're talking about
but-
changing the
right.
policy and recommending adoption
when we get there, it only takes 2.
of the, well, okay, what would be a compromise? You could have 3 per, you could have 3 per block face, 3 per block, both sides. You could have no more than 3. What, Matt?
1 in the middle, yeah.
No, that would cause us an obstruction that would be unacceptable.
Yeah, I mean, even when everybody was pretty, excited about proceeding with these, we didn't have that problem. So, and I'm trying to think, I know between 7th and 8th is, I think, the most dense number of restaurants
Yeah.
that we have. And I'm just, so I guess that's the one block where we could probably see more, but we didn't, we've got a problem in front of the corner pizza parlor because there's a turn lane there.
Yep, and they.
And then the other one uses the outdoor seating in the alleys. So I don't know. I'm not sure if there's a situation that's
I
going to
think that's-
materialize. So 2 is probably the right number.
I think that's the exception block because we have the bridge there. It doesn't really exist in any other real location other than, well, there's a turn lane, but I don't, where Modified is. So they wouldn't really be able to do anything there. What about at 5th in front of Black Ink? Is there a turn lane to go onto
McLaughlin?
Main? I mean,
They have sight distance problems. So
Yeah,
so
there's
if you
a-
remember, there's a map in here too
Yeah, there's
that's
a
kind
site,
of
yeah,
trying to
you've got the
restrict
map
some
in
of
here. Okay, well, let's try it with the 2 when it comes back. We'll
Okay.
dicker over the policy, but we've got support for passing the resolution. We just have to come up with a number, and that's not necessarily tied to the resolution.
So I hear support for the program, so move forward with the resolution.
Yes.
Is this controversial enough that I need to put it as a discussion item, or can we have it on consent agenda with 2 per stall?
2 per frontage.
Or 2 per block is what I heard.
I don't think we should have it on the consent agenda because when it comes, I think we're still going to have questions for which one.
Just put it under general business, and we'll do rock, paper, scissors.
And then a fee to be determined at a different, if we decide we want to.
Right, that would come
change
back
that.
with the whole fee list issue, not,
And when do the fees,
we change them once a year sometimes. There's a percentage of increase that's built into the fee.
okay,
These were adopted July 21st, 2022, so I think that's usually when
Yeah.
we bring
okay,
these
that works for me.
Okay, all right. Okay, I am going to, before we get to the next most exciting thing on the agenda, which is the updates on the Environmental Protection Agency's Water Infrastructure Finance and Innovation Act, which is known as a WIFIA, I'm going to request a 5 to 6 minute break.
still have-
That's what I'm saying. That's why I was, saying I need to take a break.
We've got
we
the
still have the
private
other
We've got the
half of
parklets
the
on private property.
What's the other part of the parklet?
The parking lot ones.
That's coming later. That's not a part of this.
It's item number 3.
That's the next item.
Yes, well, I still want to take a break. I'm sorry. I need
Okay,
a
that's
break,
fine.
like
Yeah.
right now.
It's your meeting. Sorry.
6 minutes. Thank you.
And we're live.
All right, we are recalling the back in session, the City Commission work session for Tuesday, September 13th. We're now on to item number 3, which I keep ignoring for some strange reason. Review of the Oregon City private property outdoor dining and retail site plan and design review application. And this is obviously not John Lewis.
Thank you. Right, so we broke these into two pieces because they're two different things that get reviewed between right-of-way and on the private property. So this piece deals specifically with private property. And so tonight, really all you're doing is receiving some information about an application that we've created. And I attached that for your information so you can see how that we're going to review these requests. I guess, let me back up just a little bit and give a little bit more context. And, well, I'll explain more, I'll get into it. But, so the background that, I don't need to go into much more, it originated at the same time that John talked about with COVID-19 and a response to not being able to have indoor dining. And then at some point it was limited indoor dining. And so we have this temporary program that's been extended several times and due to expire in November. So prior to this temporary program, an applicant was able to have outdoor dining on their private property. They would go through a site plan design review, and they would show us how they complied with parking, landscaping, outdoor lighting, and pedestrian circulation. So it was already something that could be done as long as they were able to meet the requirements. So with the temporary program, some of the minimum code requirements were relaxed. Mostly it was the minimum parking standards. And so now, or under that program, it was, 50% of your parking can be used for outdoor dining. And there was a yearly charge of $25 per year. So what we've done essentially is just create an application that streamlines the process. So when this resolution, the temporary resolution ends, there'll be an application that an applicant can fill out, and they need to show how they meet all of the minimum standards. So we're no longer going to say that an applicant can take up 50% of their parking stalls, but how do they meet their minimum parking? How are they meeting minimums for landscaping and pedestrian circulation? And then the $25 per year fee goes away, and the fee for a type 1 review is in the fee schedule, and right now it's $88, which I don't know how that is exactly the same as the right-of-way permit that we just talked about, but it is, so that's just a coincidence.
Sounds weird.
Yeah. So, so they would pay just one-time fee for the type 1 review and not have the yearly fee. And that's really it. There's no municipal code changes that are required. That's why there's no resolution attached to this one. It's all in the code already, and we've basically just created a kind of streamlined process so applicants can fill out, they'll have one application they need to fill out and potentially others depending on what they're doing, but it's already something that they can do.
Okay, well, I'm a little confused about the Coney Island because you said in here it couldn't be any more than 50%, and I thought they only had 4 parking spaces.
So, I'm not sure
I'm not trying to pick on them, but it just seems like it takes up way more than, what that little space area is. I don't know,
They provided an agreement with their neighbor, and they gave us a copy of their lease, and they're leasing more parking. So that's how they're meeting their minimum parking stalls.
The right or the left side?
I think so. I don't know exactly which, but they're leasing parking stalls.
They're leasing parking from Oregon City Brewing, because that's the only place that has parking that I know of.
That could be, I do not know. But when they came in, so I don't know what they did in their temporary program, but they have recently come in to have permanent outdoor seating. And the way that they provided their minimum parking was by leasing spaces.
Okay. And then I guess I didn't believe that where McMenamins has their little deck, that's not parking. Where are they having outdoor seating in the parking lot? They use all of that parking.
Right, I'm not sure where that is either. I think that this also, what the type 1 review can be used for is other outdoor spaces that may not be in their parking.
Yeah. Yeah, because you said there's only 4. I mean, I know where the one for tachos is because you can see it. Corner 14, they need all the parking they can get, so. And I'm not familiar with, I don't even know how you pronounce that anymore, what used to be the old, how do you pronounce that, Mixed Lawn Grill? That's the one in the Bimart Shopping Center.
Yeah, but I don't think they have their outdoor thing anymore.
I don't think they do either. When I was there a couple of days ago, I didn't see anything. So then, those are the only businesses that applied for it. So what about all the businesses that are doing this, but they don't have any, they're not sanctioned, so to speak, I guess is what I would say.
Right. They're not sanctioned, I suppose. Like, I'm not sure where those are at.
So, I'm not going to say where they are right now, but I can tell you where they are generally. Is this something that we would be letting them know about, that they need to do this, or?
So, like, informing them?
Yes, informing them.
That they need to come in for a type 1 site plan review? I think if there was a code enforcement and that's how we became aware of it.
I don't want us to go about it that way. It shouldn't be, we're trying to provide assistance and letting them know that this is available to them, rather than having it be a complaint. It's more informational.
We could send a courtesy letter out as we become aware of outdoor seating.
I mean, that's more reasonable. It's like, hey, by the way, did you know, da-da-da-da-da?
So this is basically taking us back to pretty much where we were before COVID, right? The same.
Correct.
Right, so I have no problem with that.
Yeah. I know that there were, Laura had been working on, working with some of the businesses that wanted to do this, and chain link fencing. We didn't actually have anyone with a pallet fence, but I'm sure it was thought of. But yeah, so I agree with you. I think just informing those other folks might just be a nice courtesy thing for us to do, and then hopefully they'll respond. Say, hey, I want this to be on the up and up.
So there is no annual recurring thing, it's just.
A type 1 is you're done, yeah.
Okay,
That's correct, yeah. Type 1 permit review means you come in and show us how you meet the code.
just
and-
the $188.
Yep, the $188.
One payment of $88, yes.
Yeah, right.
What's the regular fee for type 1?
It is right now. It's tied to the fee schedule, so,
It's $88 for all type 1s?
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And so they are allowed to take up to 50% of their parking spaces, but they still have to comply with the minimum parking?
Yes.
No, so maybe that was confusing the way I stated that. So
No, it would go
under
back.
the
That was what it
temporary
was.
rules, they could take up 50%. And under these new rules, they need to provide their minimum parking. So let's say they're required to have, 20 stalls, and they have 25. They can use 20, 5
Okay.
stalls. Or in the case of Coney Island, they've leased them from some, nearby commercial business.
Okay, so the up to half thing was just part of the special COVID?
Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
Coney Island's parking is where all
Yeah.
those tents and stuff are, right?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I have no problem with this.
Okay.
Which one? Oh, right, the parking standard is, that's also, as Commissioner Smith said, just going back to what we used to do, right? Like, you have to, if you want to have outdoor seating, you have to meet all of these minimums.
Right.
And so that's the part that got relaxed,
Right.
if you will, during.
Okay.
Okay, so some of them might have to cut back because they're not meeting
Yeah,
their
we are
parking
re-implementing.
requirements. Okay,
That's exactly right. Like, if they're taking up too many and they can't meet their minimums, they might have to make it smaller, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fine with this.
okay,
Okay.
I think we got it.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome. We tried to go easier on you than we did on Mr. Lewis, so.
I appreciate it.
We weren't terrible to you. We were just trying to get clear about the number of parkings per street face. Yes, it's four parking spaces per private parking lot on both sides. All right. WIFIA. Sounds like kind of like a
So-
perfume.
So Patty Nelson's making her way up to the dais or not the dais, the table here to kind of present this item. I would say this has been a work in progress and is still a work in progress, but we wanted to give you an update. We're getting close to needing to apply for the grant, and so that we're going to need to bring before you for a decision, because I think the application fee's around $100,000. So
The application is what?
the application fee for this loan program is around $100,000. So we'll be bringing that
What?
decision to you. Yeah. But Patty and the finance department and several of us have been kind of looking pretty hard at the WIFIA loan program. As you know, we need a lot more money than we can borrow, but we're trying to scale that capital plan in a way that serves the community the best. So Patty, and oh, by the way, cats, dogs, I think.
Definitely dogs.
Yeah, she's got dogs, so we did.
Sorry,
We haven't introduced people properly, I just found out, so we have to give them all the detail, give you the details about
I'm
cats and
allergic to
dogs.
cats. I love cats, but I'm allergic.
Well, I don't know, I was just going to ask you before you got started whether you needed the expertise of our amazing finance director, since he had a lot to do with this, and he's way in the back now. I don't know if you need his assistance. Maybe you don't need his assistance. Maybe you just got it all covered and he's just there for window dressing.
I think Matt can come up if he wants. Tonight, we're really focusing in on the projects and making sure we've listened to you in terms of what projects to put forward for the WIFIA loan application. And when we come back on October 5th with the whole package, I think the intent is Matt's going to do more of the presentation and talk the finance piece of it. But I've got some highlights, and if you have detailed questions, he can come up. So we'll just jump right in. Just a quick overview. I'm just going to, again, kind of repeat the capital improvement plan, just pointing out we have a lot of work to do. Voter approval, and then the election results, the funding opportunities that we have through the federal government, the WIFIA package we're putting before you, and then looking for some guidance. So it's just as a reminder, we have a master plan. All infrastructure has a master plan. It's a requirement. Master plan identifies what improvements are needed for the system. The water master plan has $81 million worth of capital improvements. Those are funded through rates and SDCs. The city approved increased SDCs in July. Our rate study demonstrated that we needed to increase water rates, and we went to the voters. So November 2nd, last year, we asked the voters for approval to not only increase the water rates, but also to authorize us to borrow money. They did give us permission to move forward with borrowing money, but without a rate increase. So what that does for us, it allows us to borrow $38 million. We can take on debt for 20 to 30 years. The money has to be used on water infrastructure. But of course, it's limited by how much money we have coming in to be able to pay back the loan. Fortunately, there's a federal funding program. It's a loan program, not a grant program, called WIFIA. It's a Water Infrastructure Finance Innovation Act. They have minimum project sizes of 20 million. Loans cover up to 49%, which means the city has to come up with a matching 51%. What we did learn is that it can be funded up to 80% with federal money. So we're being creative and trying to make this work and using ARPA as leverage and using it as matching money. One of the things that makes this more favorable than just going to the bank is they have some really favorable terms. And again, if you want to go into details, I'll turn it to Matt. But things that we have taken advantage of is that the deferral of payments, we don't have to make payments for 5 years after we're done with construction. So that's a big advantage for us. So in June of 2021, we submitted a letter of interest. That's the first step in this WIFIA project. It's a competitive process. Oregon City was selected. We're one of 4 agencies in the state of Oregon that was selected and invited to apply for a loan. Our loan application's due within 1 year, so our deadline is October 27th of this year. That's what we're working towards. We also have the American Rescue Plan, which is grant money, so we do not have to have matching funds. We'll be using that again as leverage, the 5.6 million, all of that will be going towards water. So we came back in February to the work session and asked the question, can we pursue a WIFIA loan? And a lot of that had to do with how much money could we borrow with the rate restrictions. With the ARPA matching, we demonstrated we were able to take out a loan with a shorter CIP and prioritization. One of the things I walked away with from the commission was a clear focus on wanting to make sure that the projects we move forward with are focused on meeting our existing customer needs and not so much growth. So I just wanted to point out that I heard you. And what we put before you is a prioritization of projects that benefit existing customers, and they include projects that provide citywide benefit, which provides equity. So what can we do? One of the things that's happened is with COVID, increased construction costs and design costs have really hit us hard. And also supply chain delays. We're seeing that with our existing projects. So we needed to go back and update all of our project estimates, make sure we had the scopes refined, and then right-size the package. So we've been going through, the last 2 or 3 weeks, going through this exercise of, just this is what I'd like to build. And then Matt and his team goes back and says, oh, that's great, but we don't have enough money. Try again. So we've been trying to find that right combination that we could put forward. So I highlighted this little rounding error. My husband always says I round down. So it's supposed to be 28 million, not 27 million, which is in your staff report. When we came to you before in February, we had a package that was $24 million. With the increases, we're looking at $28 million. We're still completing the SCADA isolation project that provides cybersecurity for our system and separates it from our network. That's called a shovel-ready project. It's really critical to have in that package and something we can get done soon. Project 2 is a pipe rehabilitation. Before I broke it out into 2 different packages, which was like pipe upsizing and I think pipe repair. Once we get into a federal loan program, we have to track all this. So I tried to make our life simpler and put it all into one program. So that's how I'm proposing to move forward. It's the same scope of work. It's just in one suite of projects. Project 3 is focused on transmission improvements. So in that, we have a number of transmission mains. This is all for the upper zone area, upper system area. I'll have a map in a minute. But it also includes a pump station. So in our original application, I think I included that in the staff report. One of the projects was not supported. Part of it included this pump station. And the reason that they did not support it is they identified it as growth focused. And it was because of the name. So I think we called it like Thimble Creek Pump Station. And they saw the Thimble Creek concept area. But the reality is we have a very old pump station that's limping along trying to serve that area. And we have to replace it. So I've named it and made it sure it's clear that it's part of our transmission. We need to replace that pump station, and that's part of getting the water to where it needs to be. One thing I did want to point out is that we were unable to fund the reservoir rehabilitation upgrade. That was something I had included originally. Reservoir rehabs are very expensive, millions and millions of dollars. It's things that we've deferred. I think I brought in, when we were trying to go for the ballot measure, I brought in some of the paint that was peeling from the Henry C. Reservoir. So we are actually repairing that reservoir, but we still have other reservoirs that we need to address. And we just don't have the money. So we won't be able to do anything with that.
Can I ask you a quick question? So what is it that we put on the inside of that reservoir? Because when you said paint, that just kind of, I thought, well, as you said, it's peeling. So it's not like some sort of, you know.
It's a special coating. I mean, I'm not
Yeah,
a
special
paint
coating of some
specialist or
sort,
anything,
okay.
but it's, you know.
So it's not like paint.
No. And there's all kinds of requirements for it to be, you know, within a water system. It's just aging, and anything that's aging, you know,
Something like a
deteriorates.
membrane or something that would
No,
be. Here comes John. Thank you, John.
it's coating the steel.
Yeah, I was going to say paint is probably, it's more of a coating. It's a coating to preserve the material behind it.
But you have to
Steel.
paint it on, so.
It's applied like paint.
Yeah, so, okay, maybe we should just call it a coating instead, because when you said paint, that was like, I thought, oh, really? Okay.
I will never use that word again, except at my house when I'm painting. So citywide benefits, I know Commissioner Marl, you had specifically kind of asked for clarity on that. So citywide benefit projects, we've got the SCADA isolation project, the pipe rehab project. That represents 30% of the loan that we're going after. The rest of it is going towards what we call the upper system transmission. And this is, I don't know if does this have a little light? Ooh, it does. So I've tried to highlight in yellow kind of the little pieces. Thank you. They're filling in the gaps. So Malala built the big blue chunk of Malala, that's kind of there, and we have to now connect it to the Mountain View Reservoir. We need to finish it and bring it up to Glen Oak. And then there's some connections between Glen Oak and Myers Road that we're making, and the biggest part is out by the Henry C. Reservoir, which is replacing that pump station. We're finishing out a 24-inch transmission main to get the water to the reservoir, and then we're trying to resalvage kind of the existing force main from the existing pump station and use that into the distribution system. So those are key parts. When we're done with that, it's going to resolve a lot of the issues. And I had the conversation with the operations folks. It's like we only have so much money. We need storage. Do we build storage or do we do the transmission? And the bottom line is if we build storage, we can't get the water there. We have huge issues trying to pump enough water. So we have to resolve this first. I wanted to highlight that the upper system serves 70% of the citizens of all of our customers. So it's a huge area.
What do you consider the upper?
It's the orange, kind of orangey area, let's see.
Orangey, okay. I see pink, but.
It's highlighted. It's the shaded area, pink.
Okay.
There we go,
Okay.
Thank you, whoever's doing that, yes.
That's like everybody.
I think Jacob's helping me. Thank you, Jacob. And then again, storage needs are not addressed. So here's kind of the funding overview and the breakdown. So the 5.6 million ARPA dollars are going towards this. That's the money that we'll spend first out of the gate. In fact, we already have projects lined up and ready to go. Water rates will also represent 11%, water SDCs 20%, and then 49% will be the WIFIA loan.
So how does all of these improvements coordinate with the facilities plan or the master plan that's for the South Fork Water District? Do we know?
Well, South Fork has a master plan that looks entirely at treatment, right? So getting that water out of the river, putting it through the plant, getting it to our Mountain View Reservoir. Okay. Those are all those are all South Fork facilities.
Okay.
And they're distinct from ours in that there's joint ownership between the city of West Linn and the city of Oregon City. And so that's kind of separate. We're talking about distribution right now. Okay. I know it's heavy on the transmission part of our distribution system because again, The unique part about Oregon City, I think, is that we've got two reservoirs, Boynton and Henrici, that are in the upper zone. And those, depending on the time of year, sometimes we use Henrici to control the hydraulic grade in the system. Sometimes we use Boynton, depending on where the demand is. And, but they work together. I mean, they really do work together. That's why this getting water out to Henrici at times, especially during peak season this time of year, is a real challenge. That's why we need a larger pipe. We need a dedicated transmission pipe that's going to help move that water towards Henrici. And
Separate from South Fork, yeah.
Oh yeah, separate from South Fork.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, from South Fork, there are main transition lines that you're saying lead to
Mountain
View.
Mountain View,
Yeah,
yes.
they treat the water up on, what's the name?
Hunter Avenue.
Hunter, yes,
Yeah,
thank you,
Hunter
up on Hunter. And, that feeds down to a Division Street pump station, which is theirs, and then they pump it up to Mountain View from there.
Okay.
And that's a critical asset, because if that does not function, we don't have water. So for South Fork, like that's a major asset for us as well, to make sure it works. But for this work, we're assuming the water's getting to us, that we have enough water from South Fork, and that we are getting it to our customers. That's our focus.
It's sort of not our question, but when we have our next South Fork meeting, a question I have is, how is the disconnect that's going to eventually happen when ODOT cuts the city of West Lynn off, how is that going to affect us? And that, to me, directly relates to some of these, improvements, because they're going to have to hook up to Tigard, I know the name, it's some other.
Lake Oswego.
Yeah,
Lake Oswego.
They've got the interconnect
Yeah.
with Lake Oswego.
Yeah.
So, that won't have an effect for how we operate. It will have an effect, I'm assuming, based on water sales, right? So instead of buying from South Fork, they'll be buying.
Yeah, that'll
from
affect their budget.
Oswego.
But yeah, I was concerned, I haven't asked the question because we haven't had our meeting. I was concerned about how that might, affect us in any way, and what we can do to try to minimize burden on Oregon City or burden on, West Lynn. But again, that's a tertiary question for us down the road, but it's really a primary question for South Fork. And I know West Lynn is, may I say, mildly freaking out about it, so.
Well, and just so you know, Commissioner McGriff, or Commissioner President.
Yeah, Commissioner's good.
There have been coordination meetings, I've been in those with South Fork and West Lynn, and that's been a topic.
For
So,
sure.
I mean, coordinating wise, we've been talking about it from operations standpoint, making sure that West Lynn's going to be able to have water during that period, making sure that Oregon City's not going to be affected. So, but Wyatt can speak more to that.
Yeah. I just, I know it doesn't do any good, but
Good question.
I feel for the situation for the city of West Lynn, and I just think of what we would do if we were in that same, boat, because this is
planned and coordinated, so that's good.
It's catastrophic is about what I want to say it is. It's catastrophic. It's just,
The plus is that they're planning for it and they're coordinating it. The worst would be something happen catastrophic that you don't plan for, right? So
Yeah.
that's the
well,
sunny
it's
side.
another
That's the
place-
sunny side.
Yes, it's another place where we need cooperation from ODOT. It's like a little octopus. There's so many arms out there.
So what's next? John alluded to this at the beginning. We're going to be coming back October 5th to the City Commission, asking for authorization to proceed with the loan application. Yes, there is an application fee that's actually that's included in our whole loan package. So it's not money lost, it just goes towards the actual package that we're applying for. If we don't move forward.
Administrative fees.
Yeah, and if we don't move, like if we apply and it's an application process, so there's still going to be iterative. I think, that's one thing Matt and I wanted to make sure you understood is that we put together this package, we have a financial model, we submit it, and then their whole team, right, dives into it. And so there might be some iterations or some modifications, not sure. But before, we finalize, we'd come back. And so if we decided not to actually move forward with the loan, like you're buying a house, right, you'd lose the 100,000. If you move forward, the 100,000 just goes in towards the project. So that's kind of how that works.
Are we cutting it close?
What do you mean cutting it close?
Between the 5th and the 27th?
Well, we have everything. We've been.
Oh, you're ready to go.
We're ready to go. The biggest question was the projects, which we've been working very diligently on. So we think we landed in a good spot today. So I think we're good. So the question that we're asking is whether or not you want to support our WIFIA loan package as we presented it to you, if you're seeing any need for adjustments, and if you're having second thoughts and not wanting us to move forward with the loan.
Gentlemen.
No, I'm impressed by it. I think there's a lot of work that's been done with this, and I support it.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I just had
That's it.
You're excited.
Yeah.
I just had a quick question about the Reservoir Project that we did end up cutting the Barlow Crest and Boynton Reservoirs. In addition to the seismic retrofit, what were the rehabilitations that were planned for those, if you know off the top of your head?
They were the seismic retrofit, so.
So it was just seismic retrofit?
Right.
Okay, but yeah, okay.
Well, yeah, you're right. Just seismic retrofits on reservoirs like what we have can be the determination when we look at alternatives can be as complicated as replacement. So, I think there's work to be done there. We're just kind of hearing from them, from our consultant on what that seismic upgrade really kind of consists of. But yeah, they're significant.
Okay.
And by the time, if you do things like weld gussets and do things like that, then you're back to painting and coating, painting the outside, coating the inside.
Okay, yeah, and that was my question, is if there were like the coat flakes coming
Well,
off.
I'll make 2 points. We have a deficiency in storage, so we don't have enough storage. We need more reservoirs.
Okay.
Plus, we need to rehab, right, our existing reservoirs. So there's 2 things that we're not really tackling. Before, in the original package, I had like some rehabilitation work. And originally, I had proposed funding one of the reservoirs, and that was nixed. We can't even afford it right now. So I don't have anything in there for reservoirs. But what John's speaking to is we have Boynton Reservoir, which is off to the left. It's the red circle up there. Come on, Jacob, help me.
The one by the Oregon City Christian Church.
Right there, yeah. So that's an example. We just had an assessment done on that reservoir. And the cost to rehabilitate it is almost equivalent to like replacing it. And from a system need standpoint, I think it's like 2/3 of the reservoir isn't even usable storage because of its design. Mm-hmm. And so it would be better to replace it with like an elevated reservoir. So we have full use of that storage. So instead of spending the money to rehabilitate that reservoir, we would want to replace it, right, with something that's more effective for the area.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to say something, so don't raise your eyebrows too much. It would be lovely at some point in time, maybe it's a project of the Arts Commission, to put something interesting on the reservoir. So like when you're 20 miles away, you see City of Oregon City, or, you go into the Midwest and they have their names on the reservoirs, or, whatever our state flower is, or, something to that effect. I think it would really look pretty cool. Not that we want to outcool the elevator, but, it could be something as cool as that.
Yeah, I think that's a lot easier to get done when you got the money.
Yes.
And 2,
1% for art.
newer ones, if we're going to invest that kind of thing, it'd be nice to do it on a new reservoir.
1% for art, that's where that federal public money goes. So, but yeah, I've often looked at the Boynton one, and I
Need the 99% for the rest of it, though.
Yeah, 99, yeah, and it would be paint on the outside, coating on the inside. So, okay.
Well, we appreciate your support on this because this is so critical.
Bring it forward so that we can have efficient use of our water system to the benefit of our fabulous and wonderful citizens. That's what this is going for, folks. and thank Mr. Zook for all of his participation. All right. Next, last but not least.
All right, thank you. So we brought this back based on our last city commission meeting for additional discussion concerning the proposed Oregon City Youth Advisory Commission. Just a couple of the highlights as working through this began with Commissioner Morrow putting together his thoughts. We looked at several jurisdictions in the area to kind of outline a potential vision for what this commission could be comprised of, how it would function, what it would be responsible for. In looking at it, one of the questions that came up was how do we staff it, how do we fund it, and what that recommendation would be. What I had proposed was to fund it with approximately $10,000, and then with the addition of a new 1/2 FTE employee, a community engagement coordinator or similar position to help staff this new advisory committee. In putting together the code, which is included, the proposed code is Chapter 2.58 Youth Advisory Commission. I really tried to tailor it off of like the Planning Commission or Historic Review Board, where you'll see why it's created, what the purpose of this Youth Advisory Commission is. The membership, so it's open to all high schoolers regardless of what high school you go to in the city limits of Oregon City. The vacancies will be filled by the mayor at their discretion. Really try to tie the term of service to the school year, so roughly September through June. If you're appointed, you can submit to be reappointed without going through an application process. After 2 years, you would need to reapply and go through that process again. The one component for the elections, the officer, is that we specify that the chair and the vice chair would need to be a junior or senior in high school when they take that position. And we started to spell out what their responsibilities are, review and prepare strategies addressing issues of interest to students in the greater Oregon City community, including topics such as drug and alcohol abuse, bullying, and driver safety, and any other topic determined to be important by the Youth Advisory Commission. Members shall participate in an annual goal-setting retreat at the beginning of each term. They shall be responsible for completing tasks and projects as assigned. They'll attend at least 3 community service events per session. They shall organize a minimum of 1 student town hall to hear from their peers and engage the larger Oregon City youth community. And they shall prepare an annual report at the end of the term to present to the commission. We also spelled out attendance requirements related to our expectations and code of conduct. So that's a very high-level synopsis of the code as it's written. So with that, I'll go ahead and answer any questions or help with the discussion.
Well, go ahead, Mr. Smith, if you have anything to add. I was the one that had all the thousands of questions, and I've heard your spiel many times. Not that I don't want to hear it again, but I wanted to just get back to you about the concerns that I have about it. I support it. As I stated earlier, my biggest concern is the budgetary impact. And so the $10,000, where is that coming from?
We will, this year, we will find it in essentially general fund through savings that we've seen through multiple departments, whether that's through project efficiencies or we've saved quite a bit through staffing, honestly, not filling positions. And then when we roll into the next biennium, this will become a line item that gets identified and budgeted for as one of the priorities that we will be funding.
So I think finding it is a little vague to me. So you're basically saying that you are going to be reallocating in some different and specific line items.
Yes, but I'm fairly confident that when you think about our general fund budget overall, realizing how many positions have been vacant and the savings that we typically see associated with that, in my mind, that's where I anticipate finding those funds.
Yeah. And I'd also mentioned to Commissioner Morrow, I had hoped to have my meeting with the superintendent before this came back, and I had anticipated that. fortunately or unfortunately, it's tomorrow, is when I'm meeting with her. One of the things I will be asking her is if she would be willing to take this to her school board, because I would like to have some concurrence from them. I think that just strengthens what we're doing. We don't definitely have to ask them, but I think in terms of a spirit of cooperation and what I'm trying to do with other jurisdictions that we're working with is get them to say, hey, not before we pass it, but say that this is a great idea, we like it. I did, on the off chance, and this is only one person, but I happened to be in a situation this last weekend where I was speaking with a young lady who is a senior at Oregon City High School. And I said, by the way, we're thinking about doing this. What do you think about it? And I said, I know you don't have a whole lot of information, but I said, this is what we're trying to do and this is what we're proposing. And she thought it was a really interesting idea. And her question to me was, have we talked to any of the people that are in the student government? And I said, I don't think so, but I think we could get access to, which is a question I will ask Superintendent Spitzer. Somebody will chat with them. Maybe it's not me, maybe it's you.
Well, I was happy to, I am happy once we get a policy to go into the school and speak. I mean, many of the teachers are the teachers that I had, but part of this is also because I want to recognize students who aren't able to be a part of student government to actually, to also have an outlet.
I agree.
For leadership as well.
Yeah. I know that, I was one of those student government people, but not everybody in my school, that wasn't their thing. A couple of the other things that I had suggested, I thought that the size of it was too big. I thought 7 would be more appropriate. And that's based on my discussion with the city of Hillsborough. She said they've actually pared theirs down a little bit.
And what is theirs?
It's 7. And I thought 7 was reasonable.
I mean, when I look at, like, for example, on the CIC right now, we have 9 active members. And I think trying to find the happy medium of getting a good cross-section of students who are able to reflect the student body as best as we can, especially, again, with the understanding that we don't want this to be a student government thing. We want it to be something that is separate from that and that allows students from all different backgrounds to be a part of it. And then having just looked at the other cities, that's where I came to. But really, I mean, looking at, again, the Citizen Involvement Committee, we have 9 members currently, and I don't think that's unruly, so.
I didn't say it was unruly. So anyway, you want me to go through the rest of these? I appreciate your comments, but I was just going to go through the rest of them. So
absolutely.
So you would be aware, and Commissioner Smith as well. I want to just pick on you. So, but if you want me to pick on you, I'd be happy to. So, I think the statement about qualifications, what you said, Tony, is not exactly what this says. You were saying they must be high school students and reside in the city limits, and you're saying that we're also looking at all the schools that are within the city limits. So is that what you are intending, or? I think that's
see what you're saying. So, okay.
I don't know
are
if
we
all the
looking at
schools that
folks?
people
Are we looking at students who live in the city limits regardless of what high school they go to?
Yeah, what I was saying was that they can live in city limits, but if they happen to attend Westland High School, if they happen to attend a private school, then that would be permissible.
Well,
okay.
yeah, we have some private schools within our city limits, but we don't, I mean, for instance, I know several students that are here in Oregon City that they go to LaSalle. That's not in our city limits. So I just wanted to make sure that what you said was, it was slightly different than this, so we're.
Well, and what you're looking at is the draft.
Yeah, and that's what I'm looking at, so.
Yeah.
So I think, okay, so what I said, members of the Youth Advisory Commission shall be high school student at the time of swearing in, so they got to be in high school, and shall reside within the city limits of Oregon City.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. It doesn't necessarily have to be a school that's in the city limits.
Correct.
What I'm concerned about is the residency. It's the residency. It's not where they're going to school. Like I said, I know students here that go to LaSalle, and some go to St. Mary's. They go elsewhere. I think the other thing that we had talked, and again, this is the draft that I made all my notes on, so there may be some things in here that are updated that I didn't put on my notes. I was just trying to get my thoughts out. I think in terms of clarification, so we've got here activities. Yep, it says 3 per session. I'm assuming maybe the session is the year
Correct.
So I don't know if session is really the right word, and I would say, yeah, I like the fact that it says at least, because I don't want to tie anybody to absolutely. Again, it has been a while since I was in high school, I will admit that, but I know that as a junior and senior, I was busy, very busy, and I don't want people to feel like this is a burden, and hopefully that I wrote in the margin, it says, let's ask them what their priority is, whatever it is, which is, I'm assuming we were going to do that. If there's opportunities for tours, those sort of things. I do not support these students being assigned to city advisory boards and committees. I think that's too much.
That was something that was taken out.
Yes, it was taken out. But I wrote a note. I'm just going through my old notes. So yes, so I'm happy with that. I think that's reasonable. I think that's just, if they want to come to a meeting, great, but I don't want them to feel like they have to do that in addition to everything else they are doing. And then we've got to be held to the highest standards of citizenship and scholarship, which I wrote, well, I think I know what that is, but what is it? Other than that, I'd like the statement, partnership with the school district again, and the board, I think are paramount for the success of this, which is why I'd like to have them support us in this. And I'm, again, I've only had the chance to talk to 2 school board members separately, not together, to ask them, is that something that they would be willing to have us come talk to them about? And they were very excited about that. I haven't had a chance to talk to the others. There's some of them, unfortunately, I don't know them. So those were my major concerns. And, how long it would take to, again, we're trying to recruit for everything. And everybody else in the region is recruiting for everything. So, and I was thinking too that part of this would be, I think it may be mentioned, but one of the things that I liked about what they talked about in Hillsborough was they had a youth summit, which would not be limited to just people in this group. It would be, students, period, with, some adult participation. So those are the things that I wrote down and that I saw. And as soon as I get done meeting with the superintendent, you will be the first person I call. I'll call Tony second, so just so you know.
Okay.
My question would be, so where it says non-voting city commission liaison, so someone on the commission would be the liaison to that as one of our appointments, correct?
Right.
And is that the communication access then to the commission, or would, so that liaison would then report from the youth council to the commission?
Yeah, my vision was similar to what we do with the CIC.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking for that.
I think it's really, and they may, as a group want to make a presentation at some point or various things. I think one of the things I'd really like to think about how, and this won't necessarily work the greatest, necessarily the first cycle, but how we can take some of the input from this body through into our goals sessions. Yeah. And however that process is, whether it comes through the liaison and there's a report this is what the student's interest is and how we play that into.
It's what the other jurisdictions do, particularly.
So I think that would be great.
That's a good idea. I think the thing that I found most exciting when I was talking to the person in Hillsborough who actually was a member of their youth advisory council is that she's gone on to,
she's on staff.
Yeah, she's a staff person now, and she's one of the liaisons from the city to this group. And the thing that was really interesting to me too is that this group decided that one of their priorities was the environment. And they basically came up with a policy that went through the city of Hillsborough that then went to the legislature that got put in by their state representatives and state senators, and it became a law. So, I mean, I know that's on the extreme side, but it does show, a great deal of initiative. And I guess part of it is too, is that there are still, the opinion out there that being in student government or being involved in things like this is pretty corny. But with the lack of things in schools anymore, social studies or civics or government or whatever you want to call it, I get really concerned about the people that are behind us that don't really understand what happened, not exactly the details of what happens, but they don't have a basic fundamental understanding about the jurisdictional government in their communities. And it's really gone, kind of from everybody learning it to only those who are really interested in knowing it. And, you, like me and you, we probably were exceptions in our school, and those were things that we were really interested in, but it's really not that way. And it's been interesting to me to talk to constituents that we have in this community that really still don't understand how this all works. And these are people of our generation who, well, maybe they don't remember that stuff from school, but to me, it's a little bit of an inroad to try to help people understand why this is important. And I think I mentioned to you that one of my projects when I was in high school in my civics class was we had to volunteer through the city government. And I ended up as doing that, and I volunteered on a political campaign, which is not exactly what they had in mind, but it was interesting to see that. It was interesting for me to see that from that standpoint and some time ago. So I will look forward to talking to you tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah. Do you have any other comments, Commissioner Smith?
No.
Because I would be ready to move to a regular meeting.
I would be able to say that as well, and I would like to just let Mr. Conkle use his discretion about our workload and getting that in there when we actually have some time to discuss it and we're not like slam bamming it. So, and by then I will have finished hopefully all of my reconnaissance by the end of this week.
Not hearing a whole lot of changes.
Just a few. So, all right, so we're good, we're moving forward.
Yep, I'll probably put it on for our next meeting.
That would be great. You can go on the record as voting against it if you want to.
I'm not voting against it.
So
Anyway, do we have some fantastic information under your city manager's report?
I do not have any updates for tonight. Thank you.
All right, let's, well, before we get to the commission's reports, I do want to say one thing under the city manager's reports. And for those of you that don't know this, I want to call out our city manager, both on this side of the river and the other side of the river, for their leadership in helping us navigate the logistics for the bridge celebration. I think it's worthwhile for me to mention this. It's a lot of juggling and a lot of talking and a lot of who's doing this, who's doing what. And John and Tony have been doing a stellar job. And, of course, I've been promoting this. So October 1st, 9 a.m., be there, be square, come get a fabulous t-shirt. It's going to be really exciting. And
we do get t-shirts?
Yes. Yours is going to cost a lot, but that's okay.
You get them, you gotta pay for them.
We'll put that on your tab. Anyhow, so thank you. I just want to recognize the work that's to come and the work that's been done and the work that will come at the end.
Thank you. Appreciate that on behalf of all the staff.
Yeah, and the rest of the staff too. So our public works people will be involved. Maybe even Matt Zook will be involved. I don't know. We'll put him to work. All right. So we do not have anything to report, as I recall, on item A, Commissioner Morrow. B, there wasn't a meeting this month because it was on Labor Day.
Yes.
So anything coming up that you're aware of that might be of discussion?
Not at the moment, but I do have stuff for C4.
Did you attend any of the ice cream socials or the events that were the neighborhoods? I attended the one in Kanema.
It was difficult because I was gone.
Oh, that's right, you were on your trip.
I had 2 different weeks I was out of town.
Yeah, I missed the one at Elyville. I learned about it after the fact, but I did attend one of them and was able to have some conversations with some people that I normally wouldn't be coming in contact with. So C4.
Yes, so we had a conversation, and I really appreciated this. We had a conversation with Oregon Transportation Commission Chair Bob Van Brocklin. He gave just a very short spiel on what he sees going on, and then we were able to ask some questions. I can't say that I left with much new information, but I will say that it did mean a lot that he showed up, because I think among all of the local jurisdictions, there's a general sense that we're barely being listened to and that there aren't enough avenues for communication with ODOT and the OTC. And so that was a nice gesture, and he indicated a willingness to continue that conversation. And so I thought that it was a good meeting, even though I didn't necessarily feel like I learned too much new stuff out of it.
Did he give any indication that he was going to work with the staff to get them to listen to us? I mean, I know we can't make them listen, but they could at least give the appearance that they're listening.
Well, they always like to say that, so.
Well, but it's not happening.
Yeah, and that's what we tried to communicate, and that gets to my next thing, is that we did approve another letter to the OTC, and one of the main points was, again, collaboration with Oregon City, or local electeds and local staff, so that we can continue that. So that was reiterated in the letter we sent, and then there also is an affordable housing field trip that C4 will be taking to Eugene on October 14th. I am unable to make that, but they have made that an open invite in case any of you were interested.
I might be in Eugene just about the time they're doing it. I will be out of town that coming home that day, traveling through Eugene. So I was trying to get some general information from him about where they might be, because if I can make it work, I will stop in there. But if not, I just come home. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So that's what I have for C4.
Yeah. I do know on D that the state is still soliciting for people to be on this future tolling subcommittee or committee that they're forming, and I have not heard one positive thing about why somebody should be on that, so I'm not going to report on that. It's kind of like if we get on it, they're not listening, but then I said, well, but if you're not at the table and telling them about what we need to tell them, that may be problematic. So it was not positive. And I think I shared out an article that I received. I'm not sure why I got that, but that article came to me from Pamphlet Media, and I thought it was interesting regarding the whole tolling thing. So I had Jacob send that out to all of you. Clackamas Heritage Partners.
Well, I'll just say that I was gone you had skipped the tolling diversion subcommittee.
Right.
That was also when I was gone. I was seeing a different presentation, a matinee of Wicked. So I was not at that one.
I would have rather gone to Wicked, to be honest with you. So, yeah, I figured that. Clackamas Heritage Partners.
We had a meeting scheduled for the August 26th that was postponed. But I will say that email went out from Gail. The museum's back open, End of the Oregon Trail is back open 7 days a week. And we should be having a meeting, I assume it'll be, in the next few weeks, or at least
when
not.
did the 7-day-a-week start?
Let's see. Her email was on the 30th.
What did you say, Tony?
I was going to say like 2 weeks ago, I think,
Yeah.
roughly.
Yeah,
Okay.
so.
I get asked this all the time, which is why I need to know.
So 9 to 5 Monday through Saturday, 10 to 5 Sunday. Last admission to the interpretive center is at 3:30. That's probably for the, just so they can see the films and stuff. And then working on the board agenda. So we had postponed the August meeting, so I haven't heard when the new date is going to be for that next meeting. That's that's it on that.
Okay, and I'm up on the next one. So I was unable to attend my first meeting of the West Committee because it was on September the 8th. And as you recall, I was chairing the Bridge Committee, which was more important. But I went in the week before and met with Shirley Perini, Greg Geist, Aaron something or other, who's their CFO, and Ron, I can see his last name, Ron W., who's the assistant director, and got a briefing on where they are today, got some more background, because as they know, I go back to the Tri-City Sewer District days, and that's in the past, but that's who I worked with years ago, and that's, unfortunately, I still think of it as Tri-Cities. But I asked some questions regarding the group, which is quite large, includes everybody and their dog. There you go, John, another dog reference. And
About cats.
yes, well, there weren't any cats, but yes, ferrets maybe. So there is an elected officials advisory committee that has not met and will only meet as needed. I asked questions about that. There are a number of subcommittees, and I did not suggest myself to be on any of them. I'm still trying to get up to speed. They have, I believe they have, their next meeting is also a day that I'm going to be out of Clackamas County. So I just asked for them, since they record, I would ask for the recording, and then I'll look at it later and give you some updates. So it was interesting. I asked a lot of questions, and thanks to Mr. Lewis for giving me some assistance and some prompts. I talked a lot about the I&I. I had many questions for them about I&I and how that was going to work, and they kept touting about, well, we're going to give you 33%. And I said, okay, but, the real question gets down to, is this going to be equitable for the jurisdictions? Johnson City's producing this much, we're producing this much. And, he basically said, well, when it all gets down there, it's all the same. And I go, well, yeah, but it's not really.
It's not.
Yeah, it's sort of not. It's sort of not. So anyway, he is aware that I have asked that question. So anyway, it was very good. It was very thorough. I appreciated the time that they spent. It also happened that I had communicated, I was meeting with them with Councilor Baumgartner, and so she tagged along because she wasn't aware about what's going on with Wes either, even though she's not necessarily the rep, but she's the alternate, and so she hadn't been briefed either. So I appreciated their briefing, and I sent them the prerequisite thank you note, thanking them for that. And then, of course, I got some information and some swag, which some of you are aware of. Downtown Association, I am the subcommittee chair of the Elevator Committee. We had a meeting earlier in the month with John and Vance and went through the elevator. And there's been quite a number of improvements made, which is really fantastic, and there's still more on the list, and hopefully we can get those security upgrades. The board is going to have a retreat on the 23rd, just to touch base. There's a bunch of events coming up, Halloween, of course, and a wine walk. And then the other thing that I'm working on, and I will have to get with you so we can get some schedules, is that I've asked Liz to work with Larry Medeiros, who is our grant recipient, to get a date, because even though he may not be ready, we need to be ready, and I want to start having conversations about how we move forward with his project to get that Bridgeview building something other than a big giant storage facility, because it's the 100% corner there. And looks like I'm the next one too. So I have been regularly attending the Metro Policy Advisory Committee meetings, and it's been very interesting. The big topic this last month was the Metro Nature and Parks Bond that is going to be coming on the November election. They are not asking for any increase. It's the same amount as before. And based on their polling, they think they have a good likelihood of success. And I think in terms of Oregon City, I think that the Newell Creek Canyon Park has been a big success. I've been there regularly over the last couple of months, and even during the day, I see a lot of people there, which is really good. I have not seen maybe they're doing a lot of maintenance, but every time I go down there, I take a trash bag with me, and last time I went, I didn't have anything to pick up to bring back in it. The big problem is that they have a problem with the bathrooms. If you go in it, you get locked in. So that's not anything good that anybody wants to have happen to them. And they thought they had it fixed, and one of the staff got locked in. So luckily the staff was able to get out because there were two of them there. So the bathrooms have not been open, which is not good. But they said that they're trying to get it fixed. I don't think we have anything to report under J, do we? We reviewed the last draft, and
That might be coming off soon, I think.
is that something that's going to come forward to us? Yes, we're keeping our fingers crossed, and I know Commissioner Mitchell has something he wants to say to us at a regular meeting about it, so I'm excited about it moving forward. I hope you are too, because we're like, hey, we can cross something off our list, even though something else is going to take its place. Rocky, has there been a meeting of the group? I saw something come.
It's tomorrow.
Tomorrow, that's what I thought.
So it's tomorrow, and then the one that I was talking about thinking was tomorrow is actually, they're trying to schedule a smaller meeting on the week of the 26th to talk more about
the rates.
events.
Events,
planning and things like that.
Yeah, and they had both of us on that. So, and you said the 26th, I'm just going to take a look.
I think it's that week. Well, we did a doodle poll, but I think it's either the 26th, 27th, or 28th.
Yeah, I think I responded to that. Let me look and see if I actually put it in here. 26.
I don't think they decided.
Yeah, okay, yeah, 27th or 28th. Yeah, I have impact, the 28th. I have those back-to-back, just like Rachel did. I have impact, and then I have South Fork, which is like so exciting.
On the South Fork on the 28th.
Yes, yes.
So 26th it is probably.
Yeah, I hope it isn't,
Lisa's
because
working on that
I'm
date.
not going there.
I think Lisa's working on confirming that date.
I think it's the 26th.
Yeah. So we don't have anything new to report on this. It's, they still want us, what I've heard the last from ODOT is that they would, of course, love for us to adopt this into our plans, our TSPs, and we basically put that on a hold. I think it'll be something that we can talk to Westland about, in addition to a couple of other topics, when we have our next quarterly meeting. And I know that the city staff is going to be working on that. I'm hoping we can have it before the end of the year, just to sort of wrap things up. A couple of things that I think we should add to that agenda would be not only talking about this and maybe just officially tabling this till we figure out what else is going on. Obviously, tolling would be on the topic, and I've talked to Councilor Baumgartner and Bielowski, and again, frustration reigns very high. Another thing would be talking about our homeless strategy. I think my informal conversations with Councilor Baumgartner has been from the standpoint of we all need to be in this, because I said it's not Oregon City's problem to solve this. We need all of the jurisdictions to have a buy-in, and I also mentioned this at a recent meeting I had with Mayor Buck from Lake Oswego. And he was very interested to know whether we had, and you'll chuckle, whether we had any older motels that we might want to convert into transitional housing. And I said, we only have one hotel and we are not converting that to any transitional housing. But the other thing that came up about this is possibly talking to the county about how we might access some of the funds that they have, even though we don't have a shovel-ready project. I think it would behoove us to get some funds allocated and find a partner to come up with for a project. I just don't think we can do it the other way around. It's just not going to happen. So, Rocky, you want to take South Fork?
I'm trying to remember. We had an update on the chemical feed building.
Right, we did.
Plans, and that's gone through planning, and that'll start construction at some point. I can't remember what else we had. We had
And a review.
manager evaluation.
Yeah.
What else?
I believe that was the two.
We may have talked a little bit about security.
Yes.
There's some public comment on that.
Yeah.
But I think that's it.
Yeah. The big issue on item N is that, as we are aware, the Portland General Electric and their pursuit of a condemnation under the FERC regulations, so Federal Emergency, whatever the R stands for, Commission, and the controversy around that and what that really means. I personally have not read the case or the filing. There are members of this organization that want the group to soundly condemn PGE for doing this because they basically say it's a taking away of the Native Americans' rights, et cetera, et cetera. It is, let's say that we have a split board on that issue because PGE is a partner as well as the Grand Ron. So again, rock, hard place. I believe that it'll be taken up at our next meeting to further discuss, and we plan to have a retreat. It ties in, some of the members feel this ties in directly to our race, equity, and diversity and inclusion policy that we now have with the organization. So more fun ahead. And as we know, the Legacy Project they're not meeting right now, so is there anything we missed? I will say that thanks to Mr. Wiley, I've gotten on somebody's radar for the Metropolitan Mayors Coalition. And my question to them was, well, what's the difference between that group and all the people who are mostly mayors that are serving on Impact and the League of Oregon Cities Mayors Group? And so the breakdown was Impact is more politically correct, MMC is not politically correct. And I started laughing when I heard that. So I will try to attend their next meeting just to sort of observe and see what's going on. I'm not making any commitments that I'm going to go to this. Apparently all the mayors in the metro area are members and attend except one city. So they really are driving to the hoop. Everybody and their dog has reached out to me about joining. So literally, there was one Zoom, there was a dog in the background. So I'm just throwing that in there. So that is all I have on my top 40 right now, and I think the rest of our top 40. And anything else we want to bring up, or would we like to adjourn? Because we've missed our world's record. We probably won't get that one again, but we're close to the second world's record, so. Nothing from Mr. Williams, nothing from Chief Band. Anything new and exciting in the world of the city recorder's office other than you're waiting on the county clerk's office? Mr. Zook, any parting words for us? Words of wisdom? Go forth and make more money. Thank you, staff, for attending tonight, and thank you for all your work on all of these projects. And we appreciate your work, and we'll look forward to christening one of those new kiosks here one of these days, right? We should have a big ribbon cutting ceremony with the new kiosk, I'm thinking. All right, we're adjourned.